Awesome. All right. So again, thank you very much for joining us as we're going to talk today about our AMMA Exchange product program that we've created specifically for our credit union partners. Oh, there we go. All right, my name is Jamie Zussman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Financial Institutions here at American Deposit Management, and joined by Cole Tezza, who's a Director of Financial Institutions here at ADM. So a little bit of background quick on ADM, who we are and what we do. We were founded in 2009. We're located in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. We are a leader in cash management services, providing extended NCUA and FDIC insurance to our depositors. We accomplish this through our network of financial institution partners. So we work with banks, credit unions of all shapes and sizes, all across the U.S. We provide, like it says, personalized service and relationships. We have a dedicated client services team. In addition to Cole and I managing our network of financial institutions, we also have a client services team that manages the client side of things. And all of this is done, all of our deposit gathering and extended FDIC and NCUA insurance that we're able to provide is done through our patent pending technology that we have created over the years. ADM is a solution for our credit union partners. So our main goal is to provide, be an administrator and manager of client funds. And that's done through liquid and term deposits. We're a funding source for dependable liquidity. We're able to provide funding for our credit union partners. In addition, we have a FDIC primary purpose exemption from the FDIC that allows some of our deposits to be considered core deposits. Now, obviously, NCUA and FDIC are two different entities, different rules, but we have worked with a number of our credit union partners that have consulted with their leadership or their attorneys to present the FDIC primary purpose exemption, and we've had a number of our credit union partners that have reviewed that exemption and have, in essence, followed that same guidance from the FDIC as far as the classification of our deposits. It's always up to you to determine how to classify your deposits, and we always tell you to rely on your attorney's interpretation. But
so to dive into that a little bit deeper, the main solutions that we've normally worked with financial institutions on is to sell deposits, which is where Jamie was touching on the fact that we have the ability to send member deposits to credit unions. I think a number of you in the crowd here today have worked with us in that capacity to essentially buy deposits from ADM. So like Jamie mentioned, we're a deposit aggregation firm. We gather deposits directly from depositors to offer them extended deposit insurance. And then we normally, and what we've done up to this point with a lot of our credit unions, is to just sell those, be a funding source and sell those deposits to credit unions. We've also managed excess liquidity from credit unions and banks and financial institutions of all shapes and sizes as well. And then what we're going to get into here today is a little bit of the, mixing both of our solutions together from what we do for our direct clients and what we have done in the past for most of our financial institution partners. We've built something that is blending all that together that is hopefully going to be very beneficial for credit unions out there.
Excellent. So the AMMA Exchange product and what we're here to discuss today is a solution that that's been brought to us by a number of our credit union partners, in that they don't have a solution like some of the those on the banking side with an ability to provide extended NCUA insurance beyond the $250 that you get. So limited NCUA backed insurance for your high value depositors, which results in a potential loss of those clients. Those clients, if that protection is what is driving them and is important to them, you may lose them because they're able to go to another entity that is able to provide that. So that's what this product is creating, and is what we created it for. In addition, it just provides additional revenue lines. If you're able to keep these deposits in-house, keep those clients or those members, then that obviously leads to other banking opportunities for them. So that being said, I want you guys to think about, if you've ever been in a situation where you've had a large depositor who's come into the credit union and that extended coverage was important to them, and if you've lost that customer, that is something to keep in mind, because that's what our product and program is going to solve here.
So what I've seen a lot with some of the credit unions, I think why we asked that poll question is there's been a number of times that I've worked with an individual who used to work at a bank, and then they go over to a credit union and want to bring their book of business over, essentially, and haven't been able to do so because maybe they were working in municipality space or school districts or whatever it might be, an organization that has in their investment policy statements that there needs to be deposit protection on the totality of their funds. So we just threw that in there to maybe refresh one of those memories of when that might have been an issue for somebody at the credit union.
So we have a poll question. You want to launch that?
Yeah.
Has anyone ever used an extended deposit insurance provider or sweep network at a previous institution or currently? So if you go to, you should see the poll up there. There we go.
People are doing it.
A couple of you have. So perfect. So good. So that's helpful, because that if you have knowledge of that or you've used it in the past, then you'll have a pretty good understanding of what we're going to talk about today. So, all right.
Well, yes, about over 60% of the participants have had experience with a sweep product before. Something going on? There it is.
There we go. So, all right. So what is AMMA Exchange? I'm going to turn it over to Cole, who's our resident expert on the program, and he's going to dive into it a little more detail.
So essentially what it is it's an extended deposit insurance product through our network of financial institutions that Jamie touched on earlier. We do have the ability to offer extended deposit insurance to your depositors through the credit union. So it works, as majority of the audience here today said that they have worked with a sweep provider before. I think the main one that stands out, I'm not going to give any free marketing or advertising in this, but it works very similar to the main one in the banking industry, let's just say. You'll have the ability to offer that deposit insurance up to 75 million. So that's in far excess of the traditional $250,000 insurance coverage limit that credit unions normally had the ability to offer. With ADM and our AMMA Exchange program, you'll have the ability to offer up to $75 million plus of deposit insurance protection. With that, a couple of the main points, I would like to point out quick that AMMA Exchange is just an acronym. So our normal liquid funds management program is it stands for American Money Market Account, so AMMA Exchange. So that's just our product, and then the exchange piece of it to distinguish which product line of ADMs it is. So it is that exchange of funds that we'll jump into in a little bit here. But once you enter into this program, you'll have maintain your liquidity ratios, so your deposit ratios won't be affected. You won't lose any deposits when your clients' funds are insured, and you will receive fully insured deposits back from ADM. And then what Jamie kind of went into a little bit earlier is they can be classified as member deposits once back into the credit union. There's a couple of different things that we can talk through on a one-on-one basis once we get into these conversations with you all, that ADM has the ability to be categorized as a member of the credit union. Therefore, that we had a situation before where that credit union asked their regulators and their legal counsel, ADM qualifies for a member, therefore the deposits coming from ADM are members deposits. And then also traditionally, any deposits that are going out and then being replaced by a sweep network, those deposits as well, when swept back on or exchanged back on, are considered member deposits or non-brokered deposits. So that is what those are the three main characteristics of this program, but we'll jump into how it works here next. So basically, let's focus on the credit union right there in the middle of the screen, that blue circle. A couple things are going to be happening at the same time. So there's two agreements that we're going to need to do with each credit union. One is a one-time agreement, just to entering into a partnership between ADM and the credit union. And then the second agreement is going to be a tri-party agreement between ADM, the depositor, and the credit union on a depositor level basis. So each new depositor that the credit union is going to bring into ADM's AMMA exchange program, we're going to need to fill out another agreement for them on that front. So once we set up those agreements, we have those agreements executed, ADM is going to open up an account at the credit union in ADM's name and TIN, which is that kind of top upper left-hand corner. If you can, hopefully you can see Jamie's mouse. I can see it on my screen. So there's that. Once that occurs, at the same time, we're going to be opening an account for your depositor in our system. So agreements are number one. Then we get the accounts open. So ADM account in ADM's name and TIN at the credit union. At the same time, we will open up an account for your depositor in our system. From there, your depositor's $1 million in this example gets transferred into the account at the credit union in ADM's name and TIN. Once that happens, we will already have had your depositor's account open in our system. We will exchange out your depositor's funds into our network of financial institutions, so that bottom flow of funds from our account. And then at the same exact time, we will exchange in deposits from a number of our direct deposit clients that we work with back into that account at the credit union. So that happens essentially instantly. We just exchange the funds and the ownership of funds. So once again, your depositor's funds go into ADM's account at the credit union. Once those funds sit, we exchange out your client's funds in our client's funds. There's no true flow of funds movement. We're not wiring funds out of the credit union or anything like that. So that's what occurs. And then once all that's complete, once this diagram's done, you'll have your depositor's funds fully insured into our network of financial institutions and fully insured member classified deposits back into the credit union.
I wanted to interject real quick. The reason I mentioned our client services team before, your member does not have any interaction with ADM or with our client services team. Our client services team is doing the back end piece of getting that information from the credit union for that client to set them up in our system. But we're doing that through you, through the credit union, through us. So you're always going to have a point of contact at ADM, whether it's going to be Cole or myself. And then on the back end, we're going to have our client services team that's doing the client setup. But that's on our end, and that's there's no direct interaction that we're having with your client. It's or with your member. It's your member, and they stay with you and they do everything through you at the credit union.
Yep. There's a little question box up there. Yep. How are client interest rates set, and is it standard for each credit union and each member? So interest rates are set on a negotiated, agreed upon basis between ADM and the credit union. So we have the ability to deliver a very competitive interest rate, very competitive market interest rate. We can't deliver anything, at the 10% mark, but it's all agreed on between the credit union and ADM upon setup. It is not a standard interest rate for all credit unions, and we do have the ability to pay your depositors a different interest rate based on different circumstances. So your depositor A needs an interest rate of 3% and depositor B needs an interest rate of 3.5%, we absolutely can do that. It's not a one all basis.
So, yeah, we can accommodate those if you have those depositors that are very rate sensitive versus those that may not be. We can help either way.
I think we did have a question. How would the balance information be shared with the depositors so they can see where their funds are at? It's a great question. So we can do it a number of different ways. There can be from the most basic and simple approach, there can be a file sharing capability. So we, on a daily basis, can be file sharing information back and forth for withdrawals and transfer and balance requests and balance updates. We have an API that we can integrate with the credit union as well. If we want live time data to appear on their online banking, we can go to that extent as well. So we're very flexible there on how it can show up and populate for your client on their online banking so they can see where everything's at.
All right.
So a couple of the main aspects and attractions to this, why to use AMMA Exchange, would be to attract and retain high value individual depositors and business depositors, to expand and strengthen member relationships, maintain your current liquidity ratios and balance sheet stability. That's been a big one, not super recently, but from 23 when we had some of those bank failures, that balance sheet liquidity on uninsured deposits flowing out. And then again, you're just working with Jamie or myself on this product. So it is a very straightforward and simple thing to set up with one point of contact. Yep. Yeah. Next one. So diving a little bit deeper into the attract and retain high value individual and business depositors. So what we've seen a lot is proactively eliminate competition with particularly other banks. So banks in the past have had the ability to use an extended deposit insurance product. Credit unions, not so much up until very recently. So with this product, you'll have the ability to, let's say, level the playing field with some banks in your market footprint. We've had a couple of credit unions actually to us. One story that sticks out in my head, it was a credit union out east that was going for a very, very large depositor. They won the operating business for this very large athletic wear corporation. They won everything. They were in the middle of onboarding. And once that customer found out that there wasn't the ability to have extended deposit insurance on their rainy day funds, excess cash, or even their operating funds in excess of $250,000, there was stalls, and actually that relationship did not get fully onboarded. There were bits and pieces, but that's just a real life example that we've experienced here. Another aspect of being able to attract and retain high value depositors is just another competitive advantage against other credit unions in your market, where you won't have to compete on the rate value proposition and have to always just be competing on rates. This is another product where it's more beneficial for the credit union. You're not having to pay a higher interest rate, and the deposits are insured for the depositor. That again just goes into being able to attract those new high value depositors. For example, a segment of business that ADM works with regularly is municipalities and school districts. Their funds need to be protected according to their investment policies and state statute guidelines. So a product like this is state statute allowable, and a product having a state statute allowable deposit product available for your municipalities might then give you the opportunity to go after some of those depositors.
I want to touch too a little bit on Cole mentioned the work that we do with municipalities. That's one of our main business lines. So we have a lot of experience and knowledge in that area. And I will tell you that one of the things that we're always told in working with our municipalities when we're placing funds for them within our network is keeping funds local. Pretty much every municipality, every school district that we work with has that as one of their important pieces in working with us. and we want to maintain that ability for them to keep deposits local. This program helps you also keep those deposits local. The money technically sitting at the credit union, even though it's going out into our network. It's just a competitive advantage that you'll have in the credit union space when you're going after those municipal clients.
Yeah, I mean, we're still onboarding and placing funds for some of the fall 24 referendums here in Wisconsin. And I'm working with a number of local banks because these school districts love the local bank. You support them, you sponsor their events, and you treat them well. So we know how important that is. So that would give maybe you the opportunity to go in to have additional operating business from some of these municipalities.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this, to build relationships, strengthen your current member relationships, as well as building additional relationships with local entities, which, companies, school districts.
And to strengthen those relationships with your current depositors where, maybe a depositor has funds with a credit union and they know that their funds are in excess of the 250,000 standard government-backed insurance NCUA insurance limit. And they're a little weary of this. If you were to be able to introduce a product like this, that would probably give a lot of people a breath of fresh air to know their deposits are fully insured. Going into what the benefits a little bit for the credit union, again, we do return funds on a one-to-one basis. So any deposits that go out are immediately exchanged back in with our direct customer deposits on a one-to-one basis. So your liquidity ratios aren't changed, and it is synchronized in real time. So there's not any lags or anything like that. So there wouldn't need to be any, if deposits at the very end of the quarter need to go out into our program, you wouldn't have to worry about losing out on any of those deposits at quarter end or anything like that. It gives you a little bit of your depositors peace of mind. Their funds are fully insured. And, especially in today's world with social media, we saw what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. I'll probably refer to them a few more times, probably already have. But the social media exacerbated that problem, and people heard that Silicon Valley Bank was in trouble, saw it on social media. And then, on just based on your phone, you can go out and pull all your deposits and send them somewhere else. So if members know that their deposits are fully insured, they'll feel a lot better about keeping their funds at the credit union. There's also, thinking about some of what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. Financial institutions need to maintain liquidity levels to comply with regulations set by the NCUA. If anything were to happen, funds falling below these deposit ratios can trigger audits, penalties, and some other restrictions. So this just, is maybe glue, to add on to your deposits to make them a little bit stickier. This product would be. And then again, wow, the Silicon Valley Bank keeps coming up, but to try and keep those deposits to ensure that at any point in time, if there is a bunch of, if there's an issue where there might be depositors that are just rapidly pulling funds on the bank, if they know that their funds are safe and protected, there's not going to be a situation where they're pulling their funds still. And then you're going to have to, what Silicon Valley Bank had to do, sell some of those longer term securities at an underwater basis, and then, have a real problem and going from there. So once again, you would just work with Jamie or myself to stand up this product. It is a very seamless and quick integration. Once those agreements are completed, our client services team can usually have accounts open same day. I can't believe I'm putting that out there and putting that pressure on them, but at the very least, within one business day, get new member accounts open once those agreements are finalized.
And just kind of a reminder, we're not a credit union, we're not a bank, we don't offer any other or any banking services. So this is simply a program to manage those funds on your behalf for those depositors. We're not we're not going to have any direct contact with your customers. And therefore, we're not coming in and offering any other banking type services because that's not what we do.
Exactly. just like if there's, I think there's a number of in-network credit unions out there on this call that I can see right now, looking at the attendees. Just like when we sell deposits to credit unions, they're not working with our depositors directly. It's the same thing. We understand that you want to keep your depositors close to the chest. So we went over this a little bit, but implementation is quick. Execute the agreements, one agreement, one time with the credit union and ADM, and then the one on an ongoing basis would be between the credit union, ADM, and your depositor. So that would occur every new depositor one time at the beginning. Once the agreements are executed, we'll set up our accounts, our account in ADM's name and TIN, standard money market account, deposit account at the credit union. And then in the background, in our end, our client services team that we've touched on a few times would then open up your depositor's account in our system. Once that occurs, funds exchange happens. Your liquidity ratios don't change. You receive your depositor's funds are fully insured, and you receive back fully insured deposits back into the credit union. And to wrap it up, we designed this with credit unions in mind. We've been building it for about a year now, but heard a lot of words on the street about needing a deposit, an extended deposit insurance product for credit unions. We did this for you. We did this so that you had the ability to offer extended deposit insurance to your members. Again, another way we thought about it for credit unions is your liquidity ratios aren't changing. You're not just selling your deposits to ADM to fully insure. We're working on a two-way basis. This would give you the ability to attract new depositors and strengthen relationships that you do have currently with your depositors, and to be able to compete with banks and other credit unions beyond just rate.
All right. Awesome. We promised a half hour. So we're just about there. We do have a couple minutes for any questions. So if anybody has any questions, there's the chat feature. If you go down to the bar at the bottom or top of your screen, depending where it is, there's a little chat. You can click on that and type in. So we do have a question. How quickly can our depositors access their funds? Is there a delay?
Depositors will have access to their funds same day, up to a threshold, depending on where the credit union is in the country. There's a cutoff time. But if I would just, on a generally speaking, up to noon Central Time, if that deposit request is submitted, they will have their funds back same day.
Right. Any other questions? I had some feeder questions just in case, but I'm looking at them and I think we covered just about everything that I wanted to make sure we did. So don't see any other questions. So trying to wait to get it right at 10:30 because we said a half hour, but we'll there it is, 10:30. Awesome. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And again, we apologize for the delay last week and the snafus and the technology, but I'm glad you were able to join us. And please, if you have any follow-up questions or anything you think of after, please give us a call.
Thank you.